Everyone knew when Ryan Day, CJ Stroud, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, and Ronnie Hickman were at Big Ten Media Days that all eyes would be on them. And while all eyes were on them, they gave us a lot of things to chew on and digest, and even gave us some expectations for the upcoming season. What did we learn from the Buckeyes at Big Ten Media Days this week? We'll tell you right here on Locked on Buckeyes.
You are Locked on Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked on Buckeyes for the Locked on Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Friday, July 29th in the year 2022, and today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. I would also like to thank you for making Locked on Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. At Big Ten Media Days, all eyes were on the Buckeyes. Earlier this week, Ryan Day, CJ Stroud, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, and Ronnie Hickman took the stage. Ryan Day spoke to the media 3 separate times. He spoke before he even got on the stage for the live session that was on the Big Ten Network. Got about 12 to 15 minutes with Ryan Day there. Then he got the 15 minutes that was live on the television. And then another hour with Ryan Day at his individual podium session. Ryan Day gave us a lot, and I do think he was prepared for certain questions to come up. And he honestly gave some thoughts and some opinions about things going on in collegiate athletics that you might not have thought about just yet. But Ryan Day, and these are some things that I got notes-wise from him, individual podium session, the 15 minutes I was live on the television. I just got a few notes from Ryan Day discussing things going on with the Buckeyes, things going on in college football as a whole. In regards to the collective, now Ohio State has, well, not connected directly with Ohio State, but more so a third-party entity where the collectives that Ohio State has them, and Ryan Day says it's interesting that a third party is assisting in this way with the athletes. He says this is probably something that you don't see every day, and you don't see this in other fields. But Ryan Day says we just have to adapt. This is what's going to happen in college football. This is the way things are going to be. And instead of griping, complaining, and making a big deal out of something that you can't change, adapt. And that's Ryan Day's mindset, is to simply adapt throughout everything going on at this point in time. In regards to the linebackers who are started, this is going to be going from football. Some things were topical. There's one thing at the end of the show I want to discuss regards to the transfer portal that Ryan Day gave something a thought about how to improve or a guardrail to put into the transfer portal. Ultimately, it's not that bad of an idea at all, and I think you'll like it when you hear it. But in regards to the linebackers that are going to be starting at Ohio State, nothing is set in stone right now. I have said it. Numerous writers have said it. It's been out there. Many people believe Tommy Eichenberg and Still Chambers will be the starting linebackers for the Buckeyes. Starting Mike linebacker or middle linebacker is Tommy Eichenberg. Starting weak side linebacker or the will be Still Chambers. Now, I do wonder if there is a way for Chip Trayanum, even though he is a transfer from Arizona State, playing a position he has not played since high school. I wonder if Chip Trayanum will be somebody that is in the running for this very position of middle linebacker. He's beefed up. I saw a picture of that young man, and Coach Mick got him right. I mean, my goodness, that boy has been putting in that work. Now, I have no idea how he's going to be on the field. I have no idea if his running back skill set and the things he remembers from playing linebacker in high school I have no idea how it's going to translate to him playing linebacker in college in the upcoming season. I don't know. But one thing I do know is this. I am perfectly fine. I am perfectly okay with what is going on at Ohio State with the linebackers. And honestly, I wonder. I absolutely wonder what's going to happen, what the Buckeyes are going to do, and who the starting linebackers are going to be. Would I be upset if it wasn't Eichenberg or if it was not still Chambers? I wouldn't be upset. It would make sense if that was not the case based off things that happened the first couple weeks of fall camp, which is when Ryan Day plans on naming and deciding who's going to be the starting linebackers. The first couple weeks in fall camp, you figure things out, and that's when probably it will be announced, or maybe during game week, who the starting LBs are for the Ohio State Buckeyes. In regards to the portal, the transfer portal, and things that are changing, not going to give you Ryan Day's opinion about how to put a guardrail into the portal just yet. But Ryan Day said that Ohio State has hired a high school scouting department and a portal scouting department. Probably something Ryan Day didn't think he was going to have to do when he took over for Urban Meyer at the end of the 2018 season in early 2019. I surely don't think Ryan Day thought this was going to be the move, but this definitely is the move. And ultimately, this is a great thing for the Buckeyes. If you have a department solely for high school, solely for the portal, you're going to get your hands to get a lot of news and notes about all these players that you would not get if it was just one department for everything. Ryan Day said that Lathan Ransom has had a good summer. His rehab is good. If you remember back going into the Rose Bowl, he had a nasty leg injury. But from all accounts and from Ryan Day's report, Lathan Ransom is looking really good right now. There is a chance, not set in stone, but there is a chance that Ryan Day will, and the offense will have a package or two for Evan Pryor, but that's not something that's going to happen right now. Ryan Day's mindset right now, the Buckeyes' mindset, is to simply win the game against Notre Dame. Now, does that mean play Evan Pryor if the game calls upon it? To be determined. But right now, the mindset is to simply play the game. They might add packages for Evan Pryor down the road. Last but not least, DeJuan Jones, big man on campus. Ryan Day said DeJuan Jones has lost a lot of weight. If you remember, Ryan Roberts from Rise and Draft Scouting came on here, and this is not the first time Ryan has said this on the podcast, or saying DeJuan Jones, if he cuts 20, 30, maybe 40 pounds, we wonder how much better of a player he could be, because there's a flexibility aspect that is not there with him playing at 360 pounds. Verified in the spring, he was up to 370. So if he loses 20, if he's lost 30, maybe if he's lost 40 pounds, he's going to look a whole lot skinnier, a whole lot leaner. But two, that could be what's needed for him to be the best player that Ohio State has at that right tackle position. That's what we learned from Ryan Day. But Stroud and Njigba and Hickman all had their turn and their time to talk to the media as well. What did we learn from the three players that represented the Buckeyes at Big Ten Media Days? We'll discuss that next right here on Locked On Buckeyes. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. If you have not checked out today, the earlier episode that came out today, in regards to the drafting the best Ohio State defensive lineman over the past 20 years, I highly encourage you to go check that out. My guy, our guy, Mo Murphy from the Up in Flames podcast, the Off the Ball Network, he joined me, and Mo will tell you up front in this episode, he had to do his homework, because this one was a whole lot tougher than people might think it would be. So Ryan Day gave us a lot of stuff to chew on, a lot of stuff to think about. We're not done talking about what Ryan Day discussed at Big Ten Media Days, but this next segment is all about the three players that represented the Buckeyes at this event. Ronnie Hickman, defensive back, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, wide receivers, and then QB1 for your Ohio State Buckeyes, C.J. Stroud. We're going to go back and forth. I got a few here from Stroud, one here from Hickman, one from Jaxon Smith-Njigba, and just discuss the things that they said at Big Ten Media Days that really stood out to me. CJ Stroud said an interesting thing about practicing against Jim Knowles' defense. Now, we have talked all about Jim Knowles' defense, the changes, the alterations, the improvements, the ways that the players their current skill sets can be utilized and they can flourish in this new defense. But CJ Stroud said practicing against the defense is challenging for him. Now, that may put a thought in your mind. You might be wondering, Jay, what in the world is Jim Knowles doing that CJ Stroud, who was a Heisman finalist last year, is an early front runner to be in the race or even to win said award this year? That quarterback is saying in practice, practicing against this defense is challenging. Does that mean that coming up in this season against Notre Dame, against an Arkansas State or a Toledo or against a Wisconsin or a Penn State or an Iowa or a Northwestern or in Indiana, which should be a molly-whopping, destroying game, or maybe even against a team up north, are we saying that C.J. Stroud, what he is getting as practice is going to make him an extremely better quarterback? We can see maybe better numbers from Stroud and this offense, maybe 250 on the ground and 250 in the air average per game for this offense? Absolutely. I firmly think, don't call me crazy, but I firmly think that not only is it challenging for Stroud going up against this defense, I bet you that this defense is saying it's challenging going up against Stroud because he's not the same quarterback he was last year. He has gotten better. And ultimately, if Stroud gets better, watch out for what's going to happen next. Every now and then, I like to throw in a little sound effects that come right from my mouth and not from a computer or something that was generated elsewhere, because I think it adds the perfect flavor for this here podcast. Ronnie Hickman, you want to know what Jim Knowles wants from this defense? He wants the defense to play fast. This team is talented. They have speed. They're getting stronger. They're in better shape. We all know all the things, but Jim Knowles wants this defense to play fast. What's one thing you want from your defense on the field? You want them to play fast. Yes, you want them to read and react. Yes, you want them to tackle the ball carrier. Yes, you want them to guard properly and to shed blockers efficiently. You want all of those things to happen, but do it quickly. Baby, do it fast. And I do think that's something we should expect from the Buckeyes in 2022, is for them to play fast, at a fast pace all game long. CJ Stroud said that Coach Mick is a little extreme. We talked about it at the end of the offseason, at the end of the regular season, into the bowl season, after the Rose Bowl. We discussed it here, that at some point, for some reason, these players did not look like they were in the best shape of their lives, and something mentality, physically, and the toughness, the tenacity you would want from Ohio State Buckeyes, it just was not there. And if Coach Mick is doing the things that have been reported, and Stroud is saying Coach Mick is a little crazy, y'all better watch. And not you specifically, excuse me. The opponents of the Buckeyes, let's get a little more fine-tuned with the statement. The opponents of the Buckeyes better watch out, because y'all don't know what's about to happen if Coach Mick instills a toughness and a little level of tenacity from these players that we didn't see last year. It might be what's needed for this team to be really, really successful from the start of the year all the way through the college football playoff national championship game. Jaxon Smith-Njigba and C.J. Stroud. Now, you want your quarterback and your best receiver or some of your receivers to be friends off the field. That's almost a given. That is a chemistry that can be cultivated and created off the field, that ultimately, once that is done, you get on the field. It's like, oh, man, hold on. I know what he's going to do. We talked about this 2 days ago. If this happens, the receiver's going to do X. I have to do Y, and Z is a touchdown. It's just that simple. And you want to make sure that you're friends with the play people. You're not so much friends, but you're cordial and you get along with them. But Stroud and Jaxon Smith-Njigba, they have built a relationship off the field. I do believe Stroud said that he went to Jaxon Smith-Njigba's house for the 4th of July. I think they spent spring break together as well. And so if these two guys, you know how it is. Let's just use another basketball analogy, because I've just been on a basketball kick lately. The Drew League, I watched that when LeBron played. There's a pro-am where I live. Kyle Guy is running that thing. Lance Stevenson played in it. I heard Doug McDermott played in it. Let's just use basketball. You might pick up basketball. There's a beauty of pickup basketball. And in pickup basketball, a lot of times, if you're playing with your friend, you're not only going to have a whole lot more fun, the connection between you two of knowing each other's game and what he's going to do before he does it and what he's going to do to counter what the defender does. You know him so well, it's going to make you guys a whole lot tougher to play against while you're out there playing the pickup basketball. It's the same thing with these two gentlemen. We saw a connection last year between these two guys that was fun to watch. Insane to think about at times, but was still fun to watch. And if that connection gets even tighter, if they become closer friends, buddy, it could be a long day for the opponents of the Buckeyes. Jaxon Smith-Njigba going to end this very quickly. He reiterated and he said exactly what everybody, maybe not everybody, a lot of people believed, that the team needed to be tougher. And he said the team needed to work on being tougher, being a tougher unit collectively as a whole. All 110 players that are available and eligible to be on the Buckeyes roster this season, they needed to be tougher. And I do believe, I hope that is the case. They are a tougher unit, and I cannot wait to see. I've been saying this for a while. I think I said it earlier today when Mo was with us during our D-line draft, but I'll say it once again. I can't wait for football. I can't wait for football. Football season's fun. Football season is exciting, and you know what? It's almost here. The Buckeyes are really close to playing the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and I know people that are in the home state are going to say, Jay, who do you want to – if you're from Indiana, you're listening to this or watching this, you say, Jay, is it the Buckeyes or is it the Irish? It's the Buckeyes all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. It's the Buckeyes that are going to win this game. 2 segments down. What did Ryan Day say about the transfer portal that caught my attention? We'll tell you next right here on Locked on Buckeyes. So, we recently discussed here on this podcast, I believe earlier in the week, about some possible changes and alterations to the transfer portal. You might like it, you might dislike it, no matter where you sit or where you stand in this argument. I do believe the transfer portal will look very, very different, possibly as soon as August the 3rd when this thing gets voted on. So, what is it? The possibility of removing the one-time transfer rule where you can transfer for the first time, one time, immediately be eligible to play right away, not having to sit out a year. The new rule that is up to be voted on, it is that if you are academically eligible, in good standing, not academically eligible, that's bad. That's a false statement. If you are in academic good standing with your university, you can transfer without sitting out transfer as many times as you can. So theoretically, a player can transfer 5 times. Yes, 5 times and play 4 years in be at 5 schools and play 4 years of football. That's a realistic thing that could happen. But as we know, we're dealing with this once again. It's Parker Lewis, a USC transfer, same as Paulie Oti, a linebacker transfer from USC last year. USC transfer kicker Parker Lewis is not immediately eligible right now. They're going through the eligibility process with Parker Lewis, and they're trying to get him to be eligible right now. He could be there could be an answer or a decision as early as next week, but Ryan Day does not know. And so the portal is always going to be an interesting topic. But Ryan Day said this, and what he said makes a lot of sense. There should be some type of commitment that a player makes to a university. If you want to say he could transfer one time automatically, no sitting out, no 1 year of not playing football, great, so be it. Let that happen. But let that 1 year come after a 2-year commitment to a university. I see nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Now you may say, Jay, well, coaches can move freely, and coaches can go from literally Brian Kelly can go from Notre Dame to LSU. Oh, here's another one. Lincoln Riley can literally go to USC after losing to his rival in Bedlam, Oklahoma State, overnight. I mean, forget waiting a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the end of the season to do an interview process, a traditional interview process, and to do X, Y, and Z. No, forget all of that. Buddy, game over. Time in Oklahoma is over. Let's go to SoCal and soak up these Rays. Lincoln Riley left right away. And my pushback to that thought is those are adults. I mean, imagine telling your son or your daughter or your kid, hey, daddy is getting a new job and daddy's doing X, Y, and Z, and all of a sudden, or mommy is doing X, Y, and Z, and the kid wants to say, well, I want to have all the freedoms you have. I want to be able to drive a car at 10. I want to be able to go out of the country by myself. I want to be able to go on vacation a few times a year. I want to be able to do this and do that and do this and do that. And be like, hold on. There are privileges to me right now with my career, or also just simply being an adult. There are things that I can do that you cannot. However, you say, Jay, well, should the NCAA be able to restrict things with people that are not employees? I mean, they do. Universities do as well, not just with athletes. But if you wanted to transfer, if you wanted to say, let's just say you went to a school in Pennsylvania. Let's say you live in Columbus, but you said, hey, you grew up in Columbus, been a Buckeye fan your entire life, but Penn State had this degree and they had everything you wanted in a university. So all of a sudden you go to Penn State for school. And then all of a sudden you decide, man, I want to go back home. I miss my family. I miss my peoples. I want to go back home. And so all of a sudden you transfer to Ohio State. Then one thing you realize is not every credit from Penn State is going to transfer to Ohio State. You're not an athlete. You're just a regular student going to college to get a degree, to get into a field of your choosing, hopefully to use your degree, use that money that's just been on said degree in a wise way to hopefully, I understand it does always happen, but you do that because you're homesick and you want to get into this field. But a regular student, not every credit transfers. That's normal. That's an understood thing in college and in universities. So yes, there are guardrails. There are rules as far as moving from one school to the next. No matter if you are an athlete or if you are a regular student in regards to the academics. I have no problem at all. And actually, I think it would be wise, extremely wise, to say, hey, two-year commitment to the school before being eligible to transfer anywhere. After that 2 years, you can transfer immediately. Transfer, not have to set out, nothing like that. I get it. Honestly, it makes a lot of sense. And also, you can tell that Ryan Day has thought about this a time or two. He is not just spitballing and throwing these things out there without thinking about what is going to come out of his mouth. Is it a good idea for players to commit to a school for 2 years? Absolutely. And honestly, if you want to talk about like the education process, there's nothing wrong with making somebody commit to something. Nothing at all. Guys, out of here on this Friday. Got a double dose of Locked on Buckeyes to close out your week. Very excited for what's coming with Locked On Buckeyes. Fall camp starts next week. On Monday, I'm probably going to touch on a topic that was reiterated to me, and knowing that Jaxon Smith-Njigba discussed that the Buckeyes needed to be tougher and work on their toughness. There's a connection between the current coach and a former Buckeye coach. And I think once we discuss this early next week, you'll understand it makes sense what Jay is saying. It makes a lot of sense, and I'm curious to see if we'll see a different version of the Buckeyes in the fall in regards to this trait that is not the way that I thought it would be at Ohio State right now. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07 right there for you on the YouTube. You can also send all of your emails to jstevens317 at gmail.com. Some of you might be wondering, Jay, what were you doing with your hand? Trying something new and it failed. It happens. It's life. We keep on moving. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first to listen every day. Now make sure to check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast. Know what your team is up against and know what's going on in the Big Ten Conference with the host, Nate Dickinson. Nate will take you around the Big Ten with a local expert in 30 minutes. Locked On Big Ten, just like Locked On Buckeyes. They are both free and available on all of your favorite audio podcast listening apps and on YouTube.